This is a discussion of Freudian repression that I hope will help with understanding the uncanny, as well as concepts of monstrosity and monsters that we will definitely talk about when we get to Frankenstein. So, this will be important for Frankenstein as well. The classical monster, the word monster comes from the Latin monstrare, which means to show or display. Think about demonstrate. It's something you can see, a monster. And monsters appear in all mythologies. They are very universal. Here are some kind of classical monsters from Greek mythology: the Medusa, the Sphinx, a centaur, a griffin, a mermaid, etc. Notice how they are all parts put together, and how by immediately looking at them, you can see that they're a monster. They are not natural. You should not be able to, like for a griffin, put all these parts together and to be able to live. It just doesn't make sense, and that's kind of the supernatural aspect of monsters. So, okay, thinking about monsters as something that are unnatural and built out of hybrid pieces and things like that. Let's get to the Freud part. Instincts. What are the things that drive us? For Freud, two main things will drive us: Eros, the sex drive, and Thanatos, the death drive. These are kind of impulses that drive a lot of our behavior. Quick Freud. And this, it helps if you clicked on that Freudian theory of the personality lecture that I also sent you. If you've seen that first, this will be helpful. Remember, the unconscious is this part of the mind that's like the underneath of the iceberg. You are not aware of it. It's not your subconscious. It's not things that you try to forget. Your unconscious, you don't ever know exactly what's in there. And a lot of it is related to the id, but not all of it. Not all of it. But think about the unconscious as a box, like a black box on an airplane. A lot of stuff goes in there, but you can't know what it is. Repression, which we will talk about a lot in terms of the uncanny, is a function. That's something that your brain does. And it's not suppression. It's not like, oh, I'm on a diet and I really shouldn't think about chocolate, but all I can think about is chocolate, so I'm going to try not to think about chocolate. That's not repression. Repression, the reason for repression is to avoid pain. Or it's a psychological defense mechanism. So the reason you repress something is so it doesn't bother you. And the way it works is, and the things most likely to be repressed, right, are like sexual thoughts, death thoughts, things that are related to your id, things that are related to impulses like that, is to just put it into the unconscious. So if there is a thought or a feeling that is really going to give you pain, your mind will just lock it away and you won't be aware of it. You won't know where it is or where it has gone. That's repression. If we lock things away that bother us, do they just go away and never bother us at all? Not hardly. This is called the return of the repressed. Repressed feelings don't stay in that unconscious forever. They come back, but they come back a little bit different. They don't come back as the same thing. They will come out differently. An example, your family has a new baby and you're the older kid. You're probably jealous of this baby or angry at this baby, but that is a feeling that probably is disturbing to you and gives you pain. So your unconscious might lock that away. However, maybe you end up playing really rough with the new baby. Like, oh, he likes it. I just love him so much. I want to hug him and squeeze him real hard. Okay, that's anger that gets repressed and it comes back as love. Kind of. right? Other examples, jokes, dreams, Freudian slips, right? The classic example of the male biology teacher talking to the female student, and when he wants to say organism, he says orgasm, right? Where he's repressing his sexual desire, but it still comes out. My little clip here of Bruce Banner and the Hulk, right? That's a really literal understanding of repression. The Hulk doesn't know what Bruce Banner does, and Bruce Banner doesn't know what the Hulk does. And the Hulk is all about anger, right? Bruce Banner experiences anger and he turns into literally a different person who is not aware of what's going on. And it comes out violently and it comes out angrily. That's the return of the repressed. And it's also the uncanny. Freud goes through this whole thing in the reading about the way the word works. In German, it means unhomely. Think about home as someplace familiar. Unhomely, unfamiliar. Someplace, right? All these other definitions from other languages about uncanny, foreign, sinister, etc. Something that maybe that was familiar, but now is unfamiliar to us. Remember what the definition of repression is. Okay. This is related to elements in the Freud reading. The element of uncertainty. Is something alive or dead, human or animal? If you can't tell, if it's not easily classifiable, it can feel really uncanny. Think about all those classical Greek monsters I had at the beginning. Not easily classifiable. There's something wrong here. There's something weird here. Something off. It's uncanny. Whether an object is alive or not, or whether an inanimate object becomes too much like an animate one. Creepy, weird dolls are a great example of the uncanny. Do you ever go into a person who has a ton of dolls and they have all their weird dolls displayed, and you feel like if I turn my back, these things are gonna come alive and do something. That feeling is the uncanny. Deja vu. Did this happen or not? Or that experience you may have had waking up when you can't tell if what happened was a dream or reality. That's the uncanny. So the uncanny is something familiar to us that has become alien through the process of repression. This is something, maybe this is a desire, but a secret desire, a dark desire, an unpleasant desire. Through the process of repression, we have repressed it and it has come back different, but it's something that's deeply familiar to us. Okay, still thinking about monsters. Teratology is the study of monsters, and today we use this only actually in the study of birth defects. But if you think about monstrosity in the way that, for example, the ancients discussed monstrosity, this idea of there being something wrong, something visually wrong, you can see how this is related. Monsters are hybrids, the uncertainty of whether something is alive or dead. There's also this idea that monsters are things that combine the impossible and the forbidden, right? It's impossible that mermaids exist, and it's impossible biologically that they would work the way that they do, right? So monsters are uncanny hybrids. What scares us about them is not that they are different, but they are something that is secretly familiar to us, our repressed desires. Okay, so why are we going through all this? Hopefully some of this makes the Freud a little bit clearer. And we will also see really clear examples of repression. We'll talk about it in A Sicilian Romance, but we will also see it in a lot. We'll talk about this a lot, especially also the concept of monstrosity in Frankenstein, in Dracula, and in a lot of other horror stories. So again, think about this and then think about Freud's theory about repression It will help us understand some of the things going on. Thanks.